are doing every Wednesday at 10:30 with some of the cool people in the Midwest entrepreneurial ecosystem. So today we have one of the coolest, Ted Serbinski, is on. I will kind of introduce you, although jump in if I start saying something insane. Um, Ted went to Cornell, and I was looking at this on your LinkedIn. Were you in a fraternity?
Yes, I was.
I was like, what? And then I'm like, oh, I guess I could see that. Uh, and then after numerous jobs in tech, you were a partner at Detroit Venture Partners, which is where we first met. Um, and then you've done like a ton in the ecosystem in addition to being on our advisory board. You're an advisor at Lurie. You're a committee member for Invest Michigan, just a ton of like pretty much every single thing Detroit and Michigan more broadly, cool entrepreneurship that you're a part of. And then now you are the managing director at Techstars, where you were running the Detroit program, and then now the MetLife program. Did I skip over anything huge? I feel like I kind of did just do the aggressive
That's a
scroll
good
up.
it's a good overview. I'd like to dabble in a lot of different things. So
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so one thing that I'm going to try to see if I can get that looks terrible. Okay, so at Techstars and independently, you invest in technologies that make, move, and manifest in our daily lives. So between the MetLife Accelerator and the mobility stuff that you're doing in Detroit. So what types of interesting new companies do you think we'll be seeing pop up in your area of focus after COVID curve has sort of flattened and we're all back up to full capacity?
yeah, so in terms of what I'm looking for, just to kind of go over that because it's kind of confusing. So for me, the way I think about things, it's these technologies that interface between that connect the digital world to the physical world. And when you look at mobility, like whether it's a self-driving car or any of those types of new services, it's kind of connecting the people with technology to things around them. And that was one of my children just running in the background there.
Oh,
Uh,
that's all right. We have a
so
disclaimer on the entire thing. There'll be
there'll
probably
be
kids
kids
running
going in
around
and out.
everywhere. Like,
Um, yeah. So talking about like the intersection of the physical and digital worlds, and looking at technologies there. And can you say hi, buddy?
heyo.
Okay, he's
I
he
love
said
how
nope.
that's
He's
what
out.
they'll do. I'll be like, as soon as you're like, do you want in on this? They're like, I'm just kidding. No, I was trying to annoy you only.
Yeah, so it's like, what are these technologies that help people and goods move around, that intersection between physical and digital? And, but I think more importantly now, I'm really interested in, well, how do these things really manifest in our daily lives? So just because something's easier to move or people are easier to move, there could be other applications of technologies in our life. And in today's kind of world with what's going on, there was a definition out of University of Michigan when I was trying to figure out what mobility was 6, 7 years ago, and their definition, I forget, it was a long definition, something people and goods move around more freely, more academic than that. But the last two words were or move less. And so they had their whole definition of mobility was it's not just things can move more, but things can move less. And as we look at today's current environment, everything's moving less. Goods might be moving maybe slightly more, but people are moving less. And that is still mobility. It doesn't have to be moving more, in this case, moving less. And so now we're seeing technologies like this. Well, Facebook Live's been around for a while, the rise of Zoom, all of these video technologies, backgrounds, kids running in, into the pictures and not. So just kind of this whole new lens into mobility, moving less. And there's a lot of things we can do digitally to still connect people together. And I really like that intersection of physical and digital.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really interesting. I feel like I have been seeing so many things pop up just with people realizing like, oh, I can't go to the grocery store, or I can't do the things that I normally do, and then trying to figure out ways that they can still have access to like goods and services without having to actually like physically go someplace or talk to
Right.
somebody within 6 feet. I also saw Refraction AI is like the I had like kind of been like a little fangirl of their company a few months ago, and then recently I've seen them pop up a lot more. And they have one of these. I'm about to do a terrible job explaining what they do, but I really like it. There's like it's like a little machine that helps deliver things from place to place. And so a lot of people are talking about local restaurants potentially using their device to deliver food to different people, which I thought was like really cool. And I just saw this article about them the other day. I was like, hey, look at that. And so I do feel like that there's like so many things popping up that are like companies that have been around and working on this that now are all of a sudden are getting this kind of boost because everybody's like, oh no, I have to have that now. Like I have to use like that type of device.
Yeah,
So
there's
I've been,
a lot of those, and it's interesting, kind of old technologies coming back or existing ones just seeing a new emphasis. But I do think it's all around like connecting that physical and digital world. And what's interesting about this current crisis environment pandemic is when they talk about all the pandemics of the past, the Spanish flu and others, the virus and everything and the people were affected similar, but today we have this technology that brings us all together. And so even though we're not moving and trying to be apart from everyone, like technologies like this bring us together. And so that's what to me really interests me is that intersection. Um, and there was an interesting article put out by Haggerty last week, and they were talking about the rise of drive-in movie theaters.
oh,
Um,
that's, oh,
and so, so drive-in
that's
movie theaters that were going
clever.
extinct because of the Netflix and regular movie theaters, now people are kind of going back to, well, I don't want to be in a crowded theater environment, but I do want to get out of my house to watch a movie. And so now drive-in movie theaters could see a
Yeah.
resurgence. And so it's
Oh man.
fascinating to see kind of old things come back to life in new ways.
Yeah, I do like that. That's very charming and old timey. That was one of those things that I was talking about of like just I don't know, probably with my husband. He's the only person I can talk to these days. Although we're doing yeah, never mind. I was like, although we're doing fine. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, anyway, Facebook Live. Um, so yeah, it's like I feel like after everything opens up, it's not like we're just going to be like, oh yeah, let's go to the movies. Oh yeah, let's go to the mall. Let's have this or that event. It's still going to be a little bit like, between people not wanting to do those types of things because of like their own comfort level or from certain like unknown to us now restrictions that might be in place or however long. So I really like that. I'm driving movie theater. That's something I hadn't thought of because I was like, yeah, movies are probably not going to happen for a really long time. But
But moving
although I've
theaters.
been really liking that Trolls just went direct to TV and I spent $1 million on that movie. Oh, Lordy, did
Yeah,
you see
it
that
is.
yet?
It is interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but the distribution is changing.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's another. I was just thinking too, like the other thing. A lot of men, including myself, like how do you cut your own hair? And
Oh,
luckily
yeah.
for me, it's just easy. Just kind of buzz it off. But you could imagine like new technologies or mirrors that invert it, where it is easier to cut your own hair. And I don't know, like there's a lot of like these secondary things that are going to happen that we're underestimating right now.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what there's I forget a famous law out there, but essentially like we overestimate the impact of something in the short run and underestimate it in the long run. And so I think from my perspective, we're overestimating what's going on with the virus right now and how it's affecting health. We're underestimating all of the side effects and the consequences of this.
Hmm.
And so if you look at like secondary effects like alcoholism, suicides, like just people not going to the hospital that should be going to the hospital.
Yeah.
What are these things going on that we're not paying attention to? And then outside of health, it's like cutting your own hair, or how do you go to the movies? Now grocery shopping, I just do Amazon Whole Foods delivery. But I have
Yeah.
to like every few hours, I'm like, okay, oh, there's no slot open. There's no slot open. Um,
Yeah. If you wake up at like 2 a.m., you can get
Yeah,
it.
so you can get delivery. But now that I've been doing that for a while, I'm like, this is actually a lot easier with 4 kids. Just have my food delivered. I have my list. it's a
Yeah.
$5 tip or whatever. It's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I like how Ara Tapuzian from MVCA was just like, Trolls, that's an awful movie, save your cash. That was a great movie. I love all of the Trolls movies. They've got Justin Timberlake in them, so how can
Yeah.
you not? Um, but yeah. All right, perfect. Okay, I'll bug you about my next question. So, finding opportunity in crisis. We went over this a touch. So, Techstars is a sponsor of the 2020 Detroit Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Report. So, if people watching haven't checked that out, you should maybe go to Entry Point's website and give that a look. See, um, shameless plug on my own channel. How do you think Detroit is positioned to capitalize on some of the unique situation we're all faced with right now?
Yeah, so I kind of, the article that I wrote for the entry point entrepreneur report, which is, there's awesome stuff in there, just saying that for everyone
Yes,
watching.
but I'm not the only one self-promoting. I
I
did
wasn't, she didn't tell me to say that. I'm just saying that
Yeah,
proactively.
I
But
just
the
like
article I
turned
wrote,
off the video.
yeah.
I'm like,
I think maybe like I think I was the last one in there, which is good. Like I'd rather be first or last.
yeah,
And I was talking about kind of, I see Detroit at like this new inflection point. So I've been in Detroit 8 years now, and there's kind of been different waves. Like I'd say, and this is just purely when I say Detroit, like kind of Detroit through Ann Arbor, Southeast Michigan, but I'd say one of the early waves from more like the software entrepreneur side with what Dan Gilbert was doing downtown with Detroit Venture Partners and Bizdom. There was kind of that wave of activity, and there was other things going on in Ann Arbor with A2 New Tech and the brewery, Tech
yeah.
Brewery. And
This is
then,
where we're located normally.
yes, and then that kind of morphed into, I'd say, like the second phase when Techstars came to town and like was opening, running that program, activating a lot of mentors.
Yeah,
We saw Backstage Accelerator during that time. There was the Psy as well, and just kind of like this next wave of activity. And now, as we kind of enter this year, even though the Techstars Detroit program's not running, like there's still all these individual mentors, startups around here. There's a lot of activity. Duo is now exited. There's new angel investors around here. And so
yeah,
it just kind of see like this positive growth. It's a long-term thing. And in
yeah,
today's environment, it's activating that 1950s, I forget what the the name of that act is, but having Ford and GM make face masks and other health devices, just the importance of manufacturing in the United States is probably becoming even more highlighted than in the past, just with all the international issues and
Sorry, we're
shipping.
about to have a
Another
hey
another little friend joining us.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
And yeah, so just around like I'd say from a manufacturing side, now we're seeing dependence on other nations. Like we need to be more dependent on ourselves in the U.S. and Detroit is at the center of a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to continue to see more of that double down. And I think that the one thing Lear had done, I think they had released like their, I forget, like 50 or 60 page document on how to have clean manufacturing processes to make sure there's like disease not being pushed around. And I thought that was a really clever thing to do to highlight this is a unique thing Detroit has. Let's kind of open source something that's working well here. And I think we're going to continue to see more manufacturing rise than anything else.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Yeah, it is really cool to see how like a lot of the larger companies have really like stepped up to do like ventilators and things like that as well. So I feel like yeah, it's crazy, crazy
Yes,
times,
crazy
crazy
time.
times. Um, okay, so the last question that I have,
Like the evil smile.
I know
Last question.
the last question, if I don't get derailed like five more times, you're a huge Detroit fanboy, and in the 2020 report, we do a lot of analysis just on the cost of doing business in Detroit, benefits companies are offering, and the community that's being built generally. So, what are some of the reasons you feel Detroit's a great place to grow a tech company?
So from a tech company side, like I'm an early stage investor, so I'm biased towards potential. Like the more arbitrage and potential of a system, the better. And from a Detroit side, there's just enormous potential of this region. And so from the decline of the population, 2 million in the 50s to 700,000 or so right around now, there is like this huge potential of growth of individuals. There's all this land, these manufacturing resources, automotive resources. And so I'd say that's the biggest thing, is like there's this enormous potential of this region. And is other parts around the country, like New York and in San Francisco, are oversaturated, very costly. We've got another friend here joining us, loving his robe. Okay.
I know. I wish my kids would wear a robe. You just saw he doesn't wear any clothes.
Yeah.
We're going on 40 days now of no clothing. I don't even know, once he goes back to school, like how we're possibly going to get him dressed in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. They just wear pajamas every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I think that when you look at like the strengths of the region, the potential of the region,
Yeah.
the coast, like New York, San Francisco, they're all of those hubs like Seattle, Austin. I think now there's, in the environment, just kind of a second look at, are these cities overcrowded? What are things we're overlooking? And when you look at a city like Detroit, it's got a great infrastructure. There's still challenges here, but there's a lot of opportunity here. And there may be just a new emphasis on where can we go and build something where we kind of have space, like we have physical space from people, we have space to grow. And I think the region here, like I love being in Detroit. It's when we can travel again, fly again, like I can get to everywhere I need to get to. It's always a direct flight. I think I've been on like one connecting flight in the last like 6 years, and most of my travel is domestic, so it makes it easier. But a lot of my colleagues, they're like connecting, or it's a lot harder. And I'm like, Detroit is really well positioned. I get to the East Coast easy, get to anywhere in the Midwest, Rockies, or even to the West Coast. And since we're still Eastern time zone, even a lot of my colleagues are like, wait, you're not Central, you're Eastern. I'm like, yeah, we're still Eastern. So you get all the benefits of being aligned there, but we get an extra hour of sunlight. Our sun sets like 8:30, and New York, it's like 7:45.
Yeah, exactly. I used to go visit my friend in Boston, and I'd be so thrown off because it would just be like 4:30, and all of a sudden I'd be like, what time is it? Why is it getting dark right now? This is so weird.
Yes.
Um,
So yeah, I
but
think just I guess maybe it's hard, but like kind of summing it up, like quality of life. And I
yeah,
just friends in New York City that are just kind of crammed into their apartments, and I'm like, oh, I feel bad. Like we have land, you can go run around and like play
yeah.
outside. It's a very different experience.
Yeah, sort of like the difference between overcrowding and actual density, because I feel like
Yes.
Detroit's getting to be like to getting to like a good amount of density where you're like, okay, there's like a really good community building happening and a really good like you can easily like run into people, and like these kinds of like chance happenings like
Right.
can occur because the density is there, but we still don't have like overcrowding in Detroit yet, where it's not like there's a ton of people crammed into one co-working space or one office or
Right.
so I do feel like there's like a lot of room for people who are starting businesses there to kind of be able to expand there pretty easily, or relatively easily.
Yeah, and the
Um,
way I think about Detroit too is it includes Ann Arbor. Like it's just like the Detroit metro area, and it's a challenge when you say Detroit. Depending on who you're talking to, they may think of very specific things, but I take a
yeah.
much more holistic view. But it is challenging there to kind of connect those dots and kind of cross over 275 that divides us.
Yeah, that is true. And it is really funny too, because a lot of people, so we're in Ann Arbor, but we spend a lot of time in Detroit as well. And I feel like a lot of people do view that. I mean, a lot of people in Ann Arbor view going to Ypsilanti as like, oh, I went all the way to Ypsilanti this weekend. And I was like, oh boy. But yeah, I think people like view it as longer than a 40-minute commute. But a lot of times I find like it is really like just a quick shot from
Yeah, it's
here
not
to
too
there.
bad right now. It's not like San Francisco to Palo Alto, which is insane now, which used to take 40, 45 minutes. Now it's an hour and a half, 2, 3
Yeah.
hours, depending on the time of day. Just
Driving in California is just
Yes.
terrible. Well, cool. Okay. Well, I will let you go. And then thanks so much for talking to us today. And I'm sure I will be bugging you before long about something else.
Well, happy to try this again. I can hear the kids in the background. They're getting rowdy. So
That's all right. I feel like it's a sign of the time. Your kids aren't in the background. Then like, what's going on?
I got 15 minutes of quiet. I almost got my coffee. It's getting a little cold now. So
cool. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon, and thank you so much.
okay, bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye.